Going to kick you off here with the Irish Independent, and a picture on the back page here of the Ireland under-21s against the Ireland senior team at training this week, and much has been made of this one because the Irish under-21s beat the senior team in this training match, and everybody's been taken a little bit by surprise by it. And but I have seen Kevin Gaban tweeting to say that this is standard stuff, that actually this is what tends to happen all the time, that nobody should be all that
not
surprised about it. But there we go, there's a bit of a big challenge going in training there. Total disrespect, coach hits out at Team Taylor in Hotel Row. It's Sean McGoldrick, who's in New York for the big fight this weekend. We'll give you more details on that in just a few moments, but a nice little sideline bubbling under ahead of Katie Taylor's big fight this weekend. And Madrid poised to launch a €120 million bid for Eden Hazard. So this is finally some meat in the bones of that story that we've been hearing will happen. It looks as if it may be a step closer now. And 4 debutants for Kerry as well, writes Cullen Keyes here. That's the back page of the Irish Independent. You've got the Mail, I think.
The Mail, yeah, and just interesting you mentioned that game, because the headline there is embarrassed. I think it's a great headline. Worry for Mick as Kenny's kids shock Ireland. They already got a new names with Busby Babes, now we have the Kenny kids. And a picture of Rory McIlroy as well, as he faces his struggle to make Ohio cut. So yet again, it's people talking about Rory McIlroy's form, and O'Donoghue returns to form lethal Kerry attack.
Yeah, he scored a 75 overnight, so not an amazing start for him. The Irish Examiner, meanwhile, it's a bumper edition really. If you're looking ahead to the Champions League final this weekend, it's very much your one-stop shop today. 12 pages in total on the Champions League inside the Irish Examiner this morning, and that's Harry Kane and Mo Salah on the front page there. Whether Harry Kane will play or not remains to be seen. We'll get Martin Lipson's thoughts on that a bit later on. And Derek McGrath saying the return of Brick Walsh will bring infectious character and presence to Waterford, so maybe they will get it done over Limerick this weekend. It's the Irish Examiner.
The Herald, following on from Sean McGoldrick's story and Katie Taylor, farmer's daughter will test Katie to her limit. That is a great photo of Katie there, and it's an article explaining us about Delphine, because a lot of us probably wouldn't have heard a lot about her, and just going through, she's had a hard life. It's you know, as in she's had to work hard to work through, like most boxers. And I thought it was really interesting. On the inside as well, we might go into it later, I thought Kieran Whelan has a very good article about James Horan and the Mayo vehicle. But I think we do love talking about Mayo. They'll still be there or thereabouts.
Yeah, and they are the gift that keeps on giving, obviously.
They are,
year
thankfully.
On year. The Irish Daily Star, meanwhile, this morning, it's big boots to fill. If Owen was here, he'd probably be calling that one tab of the morning. This is Philippe Coutinho, the man to replace Eden Hazard at Chelsea. Maybe he's on his way back to the Premier League, writes Paul Brown there. Duffy not doubtful for Dane, so a bit of a boost for Mick McCarthy there. And Comer aiming for the Super 8s. This is Damien Comer at the Super Value launch yesterday, saying that he ain't going to make it for the Connacht final, but aiming to get back for the Super 8s.
The Mirror, we also have another headline there about Philippe Coutinho. He'll fill Eden's boots, boom, boom. And also a photo here of Sadio Mane. I will never quit sexy Reds, apparently.
The Telegraph, meanwhile, the photograph here is of Ben Stokes from the World Cup yesterday, the England fielder. I saw this clip on Twitter yesterday, and it was like, oh, you must watch this. It's the greatest cricket thing you'll have ever seen, was the loose sort of headlines that have cropped up across a lot of them. I had to watch it a few times and slow it down and sort of see where exactly it was. This may be the greatest catch of all time. Was I think the headline.
Have they seen hurling though?
Reputable source. You could apply that to everything, right? But I mean, it was good. I'm not saying it wasn't good, and I'm sure if you're a cricket nut, you'd be thinking it was the most amazing thing that ever happened. It was an incredible catch. You can kind of get some of the sense of it there, but just it was the most incredible catch of all time. Had me scratching my head a bit. An audience with Jurgen Klopp, Jamie Carragher's brilliant interview, it writes here at the top, and there's a couple of page spread in the middle there, Jamie Carragher in conversation with Jamie Klopp. Like, it's not bad. Brilliant, I'm not sure about, but it's not bad.
Okay, we have The Sun. We have Benfica's Felix's big photo here of him, but I prefer the little headline at the side, which I thought was very interesting. Klopp deals out hairdryer. Virgil van Dijk revealing the shouting and screaming which got Liverpool to the Champions League final. And I never would have visualised Jurgen Klopp as a hairdryer person, so who knows? There might be things about Jurgen we need to learn yet. I just thought it was very interesting because you always saw him as very reasonable as an individual.
Yeah. Well, when he was out on the pitch afterwards, clapping hands with everybody and clapping everybody in the back. Yeah. Doesn't look like the Fergie type character. The Irish Times, meanwhile, it's hurling the lead here with Jackie Turrell. Limerick need to recognise that hype is the devil. Strong stuff from Jackie Turrell there on that point we were just discussing their game against Waterford this weekend. And Sean Bourne writing that determined Brogan insists he can still contribute to Dublin's cause. Some interesting stuff from Bernard Brogan this morning, saying that it would have been very easy for him to hang up the boots at the end of last season for the minimal role that he played, and he hasn't played a huge role so far this season, but at 35 years of age, like, I'd be hanging around for the
Drive for 5
in a row.
Oh
you?
yeah,
Like,
you'd have to take me out there on a stretcher while that was still alive.
reading his quotes, it's like, it's not really about that. It's not, there's not what he said, but reading between the lines, it doesn't feel as if it's really about that it's like there's a bit of redemption there, there's a bit of, I don't want to go out like what happened last year. I still feel, I've spoken to the management team, they insist I have something to offer, I think I have something to offer, but I mean, in the background.
That's always there, obviously, but Jim Gavin, of all people, a bit like Brian Cody, he wouldn't have Bernard Brogan there unless he felt he had something to offer. So there's something there. But yeah, the Drive for 5, they're never going to say it out loud. Why would they? That would be sacrilege to say it out loud, especially to people like us, but it has to be there. I mean, wouldn't it keep you there?
Oh, listen, I mean, a half of one I'd be happy with, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So you'd keep it up. The Irish Daily Star, we have here, work your backside off. I love all these tabloid puns. Duffy not doubtful for Danes. That's about Shane Duffy and him sitting out the closed doors game, and big boots to fill. Philippe Coutinho again there. And
my favourite story, obviously the morning's repeater here in The Guardian, it's Ben Stokes' catch yesterday, the same photograph. Everybody's agreed apparently that this is the photograph that best captures Ben Stokes. There probably was a better one, to be honest with you, because he was at full reach at some point or another. It was kind of an over-the-shoulder catch. I'm really badly describing.
You're really good at painting it here.
It happened with this catch yesterday. Check it out on Twitter. It's the best thing I can say to you. But out of this world, writes Ali Martin.
And my last pop here is the Times Ireland edition, and we have under 21 show senior side how it's done. Fitzgerald will leave Munster. That's about Gareth Fitzgerald. He's leaving his role as Munster chief executive. And back me and I'll stay. Sarri tells Chelsea.
All right, that's what's happening on the back pages of your newspapers this morning. There's a couple of them here that we want to get into in a little bit more detail. We mentioned Jamie Carragher meets Jurgen Klopp, obviously ahead of the Champions League final this weekend, and it was the first piece that I opened this morning. I thought, oh, Jamie Carragher, a brilliant interview with Jurgen Klopp. There's nothing else I need to do today other than read this piece because it's going to be magical. And it's not bad. Like, Jurgen Klopp has this incredible knack of positioning himself outside of the thing that he's absolutely central to. That's one of the things that most impresses me about the man, that he has this, you can assume that he's absolutely obsessed with what he's doing, but he also somehow has that capacity just to sit outside it a little bit and gaze into it. And it's been a whole bunch of stuff this week. He did a piece on, I saw on Channel 4 yesterday, where he'd been talking about Brexit, essentially. And it's a topic he's spoken about before, in some respects says that it's not something that he's all that comfortable to talk about, but actually speaks about it really well. And just said how detrimental the entire thing is, and from a German point of view, we're right behind this European thing. Everybody needs to back it. We're much better when we're all in this together. And it was just so sensible. Like, it wasn't ranty, and it wasn't shouty, and it wasn't preachy. It was just very sensible conversation. I mean, I sound like I'm surprised by that. I'm not, but for somebody in his position, it would be much easier to say, listen, you're asking me a question about Brexit. It's the Champions League final week. I've spoken to the topic before. You're just trying to get a quote. Let's just leave it and move on and talk about the game. But he didn't. He probably engaged in it.
And wouldn't it be much easier to talk about Brexit than talk about the Champions League final?
Maybe it would be.
If I was in his shoes.
Maybe he's double bluffed us here. Some of the stuff that the interview is grand. Like, it's not bad. It's given the two positions of club legend and current club manager, I maybe would have thought I'd get a little bit more. You get a real sense of Jurgen Klopp, the football man, I suppose would be the thing I might say out of it, that he's talks about as a 7-year-old how he was obsessed by football, and his mother would put him in the bath, and to be whenever there was a major game. I don't know what he was doing in the bath for the major games. I don't know. I initially thought that it was so she could distract him while she went to watch the game, was my initial thought. And I'm still not 100% sure about what he was doing in the bath, but that's where he was.
Maybe she was very Germanic and that was bath time, and therefore it didn't matter what was happening. On. You had to have your bath.
I like to think that she wanted to distract herself and putting the kid in the bath for an hour and a half, which again is what it says. I mean, it's, so yeah.
Anyway, what you do when you're trying to watch football? You put the kids in the bath?
No, I realised that. No, I just try and let them sort of continue to entertain themselves is my general sort of outlook, and trying to get, it's very difficult with the younger one who's only 6 months, but the elder lad,
I mean, the younger one can't get into the bath alone yet. Jeez, what kind of children are you rearing?
Yeah. But I realised that I was a bit too, I was watching a game in the last month, and I realised I was a little bit too into it when the child of 2 years and 3 or 4 months was running around the front room saying, F's sake, F's sake, F's sake. Not as politely as that. Oh, where did he pick that up from? Anyway, back to Jurgen Klopp.
Creche, obviously.
Yeah, creche, definitely. Yeah, that he doesn't go to. He says about Liverpool here, and the just obviously everything that's going on there at the minute in terms of what he's developing. He says it can be a golden era, and for me it is already. Who connected to Liverpool can't be happy? Who can't love what we're doing? Because step by step we're coming closer to everything. Okay, we didn't do it again in the league because of City, but we're again in a final, and it's still very positive. There's a lot of that conversation about City and how difficult it is to it is to get past them, and like in some way it's a bit defeatist because it's, well, they're better than us and by rights they should win it, is essentially what he's saying here. But I'm assuming that, to your point about the hairdryer treatment internally, that internally it's a significantly different message.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I suppose if you go out with that defeatist attitude, why bother? So obviously that's not what they believe internally, because if Liverpool believed that as a team and as a manager, they wouldn't have finished second to City this year. They'd be well down. Yeah,
so we'll see how it'll be. It will actually, to be fair, be fascinating to see how it plays out even next season, and some of that might be dictated by what happens at the transfer window as well. Just one other quote from this: when it came to Liverpool, he said there was a mood and a feeling where the people thought we can get Klopp. I was not thinking like that. I was thinking at that moment that every manager in the world would run to Liverpool, and I am ready. Like, I think he's doing himself a disservice there, because I'm not sure at that time that everybody in the world would have been running. Certainly not every top manager would have been running to Liverpool. Like, he talks about the fact that he, in his words, early in the piece says, we're now, without debate, one of the top 5 or 6 teams in Europe. And it seems like such a stupid thing to say, given the fact that they're in the Champions League final. But actually, would you consider Tottenham to be in the top 5 or 6 clubs in Europe? Like, you probably wouldn't when it starts next season.
Despite the fact of where they are.
You probably wouldn't, Yeah. So I think he's done an incredible job. And I'm not sure that people would have been flocking to that Liverpool job when he went to it,
No, and funnily, I'm just racking my brains there. I can't remember. Who else was mentioned at the time? I can't remember. I just remember waking up one morning and seeing his name linked to it, thinking, oh,
yeah,
that's kind of cool.
There probably would have been some of the usuals. Jose has been linked there from time to time.
Yeah.
God, I couldn't think of a worse fit for Liverpool than
he
Jose
could not.
Mourinho.
No.
Klopp
suits Liverpool. He suits Anfield. He suits the Liverpudlian mindset. He just understands the people up there. He just gets it, and he understands everything they've been through.
Yeah.
I love him. I think he's great.
He could be there for 20 years.
He's my dream interviewee.
We flash forward to 6 months
when are you guys sending me over to interview Jurgen?
Yeah.
I'll just sit there and go, Jurgen.
So he's like, listen, I ain't agreeing to this. It's not happening. A couple of other stories that we want to touch on. One here, Sean McGoldrick, who's in New York for the big fight this weekend at Madison Square Garden. Total disrespect. Coach hits out a team Taylor in hotel row. So it seems that for world title fights that opponents are generally not booked into the same hotel, which my initial thought was, well, like, why the hell not? What difference does it make? Like, frequently these hotels, particularly in cities like New York, can have 15,000 bedrooms in it, and actually they'll probably never see each other, and who the hell cares? But it seems like it's not what's done, but it was by mistake on this occasion. And what they did was they shipped Delphine out of the hotel, so there was already a bit of power play. I think it's great, to be honest, is what my main thought about this, that a little bit of needle before the fight does nobody any harm. But Delphine's manager, who's also her trainer, claimed in an interview with the Belgian press that the Taylor camp had insisted that they move. So they said, listen, we're quite happy here. You need to shunt her on up the road. He had described the move as totally disrespectful, claimed that the psychological warfare had begun, considering the Taylor camp knew that she'd been staying at that hotel for quite some time. But Brian Peters, who's Katie Taylor's equivalent, had said that there was a clause in their contract with Matchroom which stipulated that she stay in a different hotel to Pursoon. And
it's great psychological warfare, because elite athletes at that level, everything is planned down to the last half inch. So you've packed up your bag, you've arrived at your hotel, you've unpacked it, you've put things in order. You were messing with the order of their mind when you do that.
And also, she's coming over on me now. You know, but I mean, that you can flip that. You can say they're all against me. Even my own
that doesn't work though.
Me.
I'm blue in the face telling people this does not work.
Because why? It's like
there's no psychological research out there, one way, shape, or another, that they're all against us. They wrote us off.
Millwall, they all hate us and we don't care. That sort of thing.
Yeah, it might be different if they all hate us and we don't care. That's kind of different to they're all against us and we'll show them. Okay. And I'm blue in the face trying to tell managers this. Nobody listens to me. Maybe they're right. I don't know.
So yeah, look, I think it's a great little wrinkle of a line and lead into that fight. Delphine, you'd mentioned her story there. She's a police officer and has had to take holidays for this fight and is out in New York.
It's not easy on her.
Matchroom have gone to the I find it funny, but Matchroom have gone to the effort of saying that she's gone to a much better hotel. This hotel that she's gone to, I mean, this is where they've literally said in the piece, this is where Eddie Hearn is staying.
Oh, so, well, you know, if he's staying there.
Nothing else needs to be said about it. Another piece that we have already slightly touched on was in the Mail, which you might have there, more Treasa. Philip Lanigan writing about, it is about the Davy Fitzgerald stuff, but just that managers need to stay off the pitch. And this would be something that you could actually legislate for in a quite straightforward fashion, that, you know, you come on the pitch, you're going to get sent off.
Yeah, simple as.
Simple as. Which everybody understands the rules. And at that point, like, that's probably useful for managers.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Well, I understand now. So I won't do that again.
Well, they know it. Yeah, they know it. I'm just going through. Philip Lanigan has a good kind of lowdown here in the incident, and he has a lowdown of the discussion that followed on the Sunday game that evening. And he quotes Anthony Daly saying, "We all lose the rag, but you can't go on the field, especially after the league match in 2017 and the suspension." That was, of course, when Davy went in against Tipperary. Maybe engaged the fourth official outside the line, and so the case of the prosecution rested. So they're talking through, but basically it all comes back down to. And he mentions, like, for example, in the Ulster Senior Football Championship, Armagh manager Kieran McGeeney somehow escaped punishment for meeting Downs Kevin McKernan with the shoulder as opposing players and management mingled in the same area, readying themselves for extra time. Even though the rulebook explicitly mentions the prospect of an 8-week ban for any type of physical interference with an opposing player or team official. So you can see why the Davy Fitzgeralds feel aggrieved.
Oh yeah,
because they're just doing what everyone's doing, but only a few people are being singled out.
Like, if you remove the personalities from it, it just needs to be black and white.
Yeah.
Like, there's no
But there's so much about the GAA that should be black and white but isn't.
I know, yeah.
And maybe that's the beauty of it. Except for the fact now I think it's become too serious. Too much is riding on these games now for stuff like this to be happening for one person and not another.
To legislate more clearly, or maybe, as you say, it's already legislated for, it just needs to be acted on.
Yeah.
One other story that we wanted to touch on briefly, the Herald, I think that...
Kieran Whelan's column. Brave man, because it takes a brave person to say anything, not even against Mayo, but to query certain things, you know. And his headline is, "Too late for Horan to twist, so he'll plough on." And then the sub-headline, "Mayo should have purged some of team as Gilroy did with Dubs." And Kieran Whelan's crux of this argument is that he's wondering, is this Mayo team under James Horan 2.0, are they like the Dublin team of the early 90s that eventually plough on and win that hard-earned All-Ireland? Or are they like the softer Dublin team of the noughties that were just missing one or two things? I don't know. I think they're more perhaps of the Dublin 90s. I think last Saturday was a blip for Mayo. I wouldn't... Like, they'll still go further in the championship than Roscommon, I feel.
Yeah.
I feel they will.
Yeah.
Look, they have the talent.
The question, we had Adam McGinley on the show last week, and I said to him, we're having a discussion here about the third favourites for the All-Ireland versus a team that are 125 to 1 for the All-Ireland. How is this even a conversation?
Yeah.
You know,
Roscommon are a good team, and they proved that on Saturday. They're capable of taking out good teams. They're not at the level yet to continually take out good teams, I think. And that is the difference. The thing about Mayo is...
the point that I would make about it is that result says more about Mayo ultimately than it does about Roscommon, will be my main take, that they should have actually... That should not have been a conversation.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're absolutely right. And Kieran Whelan does discuss a few things. Like, for example, for me, Horan is now caught in a stick or twist situation, and possibly he's too late to twist. Now, we don't forget, we've people coming back from injury. We've Cillian O'Connor, Shamie O'Shea, Donny Vaughan. He mentions that here, and they'll increase the strength. But he was talking about the free-taking Kevin McLaughlin. He didn't look like he was firing on all cylinders, and that's fine. You can't be all the time, but Kieran Whelan's querying the decision-making on the line, and that's a brave thing to do, because not everybody does, and not everybody does against Mayo in particular for this reason, because they're such a great story, and they're wonderful to watch. I do think their supporters do put a lot of pressure on them, and maybe that played into this, I don't know. I'll probably get shot for saying that now as well, but I just think Mayo is a football team. The championship needs them, and the longer they're in there, like last summer when they went out so early against Kildare. Was it a great new chapter in the tragedy that is Mayo football? Yes. It's a great story. I'm not sure, and Kieran Whelan's saying the same thing, is the book going to be finished, written this September? Kieran seems to be of the opinion, no, it's not going to be. There's another chapter of heartache waiting for them, and he queries just basically that James Horan should get rid of some of the elder statesmen, but if you did, who would replace them? I'm not sure they're there yet.
And also some of those elder statesmen, one in particular was a footballer of the year not that long ago, so I don't know that you want to necessarily be sort of shunting them at the gap anytime soon.
Because you're not as brilliant as he used to be, and one of them is obviously Andy Moore, and he's probably more brilliant now than he was a few years ago. The other ones, just because they're not brilliant for 70 plus minutes on the field does not make them not brilliant on the team.
Yeah. Right, that's where we're going to leave the newspapers